All right, Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today. We're going to jump right in. I'm going to have you introduce yourself to our guests on the podcast here. Kind of tell us who you are, what kind of business you have, and then we'll jump from there.
Okay. I'm Kevin McQueary. I'm a recently retired Army Lieutenant Colonel. I finished my career as a network systems engineer working for the Office of Secretary of Defense Chief Digital Artificial Intelligence Office. I I was on the infrastructure and platform team there supporting the Advana ecosystem, which is the Department of Defense's single authoritative enterprise data repository. It's a next generation, if you will, of something that came out of Comptroller. They started trying to find better ways of attacking the audit problem that the DoD was having, and they
Hmm.
started looking at emerging technologies. And as they started to get more and more familiar with what was out there, they started asking the question of what else can this do? And obviously, there's so much we can get at in this space as you start to understand what tools are available in data analytics and AI.
Oh, tons in the government space. So I've been in government contracting for like 25 years or so. I've actually branched out the last couple of years, really because of the speed of government.
Yeah,
Um, has just been quite slow compared to the commercial side.
you are
But
not kidding.
um, the speed in so many things, just the adoption of technology is one thing that's kind of lagging in a lot of places, but also just the procurement process is quite slow in government land, as you might imagine.
Oh, that's the space I do most of my work in.
Yep.
So, being recently retired, what one of the adventures that I went on before I retired was I got tasked to, let's call it, investigate an Air Force program called the Bravo Hackathon series.
Cool.
The guy that I work for today, Stuart Wagner, he is now the Department of Navy Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer. I work for him as a contractor.
Yep.
I'm his data and AI weaponization lead is the title that he gave me. But this hackathon space tried to attack that problem. Stuart conceived of this model he calls the bits to effects cycle.
Hmm.
And the overarching premise is just like you were talking about, we do this too slowly and we can't. If you look at the military history of everything and you look at the geopolitical environment where you're talking about authoritarian regimes versus democracies, in a situation of conflict, typically the democracy is going to get punched in the face first, right?
Right.
Because we operate under different rules. Uh, and that's the price you pay for having that type of government. But there's nothing that is preventing you from being prepared to react, right? So you want to have a strong defense to deter it, but should someone act against you, you want to be able to act very quickly. And to your
Right.
point earlier about how slow we do things very slowly. So um, I will tell you from what I've seen as I've gone through this journey, and we could talk at length at the details, but one of the opportunities I was given was to speak at the U.S. National Drone Association's first annual conference.
Cool.
And I was actually denied to go on stage by OSD CDAO because there was some wonkiness at the time. There were some reorganizations, and
Hmm.
I could not get on stage and represent, but I got to manage one of the working groups. But just being there, I was able to interface with a lot of the attendees. And I will tell you that at least half, if not more, of the people that were there were either directly or indirectly helping out with the conflict going on in Eastern Europe right
Hmm.
now. And what I noticed was that they were essentially figuring out Stewart's hackathon model, that bits to effects cycle, where you have a problem, you're gathering telemetry, you're trying things out, you're getting that telemetry from the effort, and then you're making the adaptations and the innovations based on all the data that you keep receiving based on each effort. Um, but they're doing it in a way that isn't structured, and it's learning as you go. They're not practiced in this. And what we're trying to do with our hackathon models is essentially do a hackathon as a service where we are practiced in this. We know how to do this, and we can do this in iterative cycles. Not and Congress agrees, actually. Stuart and I briefed this hackathon, the Bravo hackathon model in the Bits to Effects cycle to a House Armed Services subcommittee. That ended up in the FY25, fiscal year 25 National Defense Authorization Act. It's Section 1503, where they're telling the formerly OSD, CDAO, Chief Digital Artificial Intelligence Office, that they have to establish a Department of Defense hackathon program. They set it up under nascent terms. They wanted to dictate that there are 4 designed hackathons per fiscal year, and that's a good start. We want to be able to do this, in predictable fashion, in iteration, but we also want to be able to react in a moment of crisis, to be able to respond quickly should the need arise. There's no one size fits all, because you don't know what the situation is. So part of the way that we're trying to design these is we're going to have structured challenges and very narrow guardrails in terms of, this is the problem you're trying to solve. These are the tools that you have to solve them. And you have a lot of people attacking the same problem. Or you can have choose your own adventure, where you have essentially something that you want to showcase, or a problem that you have in your environment, that you're the subject matter expert, the SME, as we like to call them. You're the SME in this particular arena, and you understand and live the problem, but you don't quite know how to solve it. So, you bring that to the table. You can dynamically form teams, and you can attack it as a group. And you'd be amazed what people can turn out in 3 to 5 days.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I bet. Now, are the people that are at the hackathons government employees, contractors, a mix of all?
But yes, because what we're trying to do is create more than one play in terms of execution. There are certain situations where you have situations. We use the Bravo hackathon model to execute something in support of Special Operations Command. They had a problem that they brought to the table. We did a micro event, and they were about to let a contract for $115 million to solve this problem. In 3 days, 25 people attacked this problem, and they got the answer they needed, and then they redirected those funds towards other problems, right? Which, that's huge, right?
And I bet you made a lot of people mad, though, too.
So that's an initial reaction, and it's a fair initial reaction, but that money is still going to be spent, right? But we want to spend the money where we need to, right? And we also want to spend, because you don't want to waste it, right? If you've been in the game for a long time, there are a lot of situations where people are getting paid a lot of money for very little, right? And we're creating a situation where people are creating a lot of products for very little. And that's very unusual in government, right? And we found that our biggest challenge is on the backside. We got a lot of resistance from Craig Martell, who was the first CDAO. When he saw the event that we did in Hawaii in support of Indo-PACOM, he was sitting across from me at the table, and we're talking about the event. We're talking about the good of it, and he's like, "Yeah, these are exciting. People are doing a lot of great stuff. It's all very interesting, but so what? There's no value to it." And to some extent, he's not wrong, because the what next never happens. I don't want to say never happens. Usually doesn't happen, because it's so hard to get from, look, I made something, if you're in
Yep.
government, to get it into production, right?
Yep.
So people can actually use it. And at that time, he was absolutely right. The environment was, he read it correctly, but it's changed. And I think we were part of that change. And if you paid attention to a lot of the senior leaders in recent history, the former acting DoD CIO, Katie Arrington, she got up on stage and she started talking about how we needed to blow up the risk management framework because
Yeah.
it's too scripted, it's too cumbersome, it's not working as intended. We have Secretary of Defense Hegseth's defense acquisition was software acquisition pathway memo, where he's talking about how we need to speed up the acquisition process to get the stuff moving quicker.
Yeah.
And there's more and more and more, all the way up to the president's AI action plan, actually uses the word hackathon in it, talks about how we need to change the culture to a try it first kind of a situation. Really, what it is the senior leaders are starting to message down that yes, there is risk, but we live in a world right now in this space, in particular, where we do need to accept risk, and
Yep.
and the mitigations don't have to be as archaic as what's on policy today.
And
So
that's a huge proponent of why there were such slowdowns over the last few years. I mean, I've been historically on the mission side of things for certain groups. And 10 plus years ago, things were more forward leaning, right? Like people would say, "Hey, we have this mission need. Can you build something? Yep, let's get it on contract, go deploy." 5 years ago, that kind of pendulum swung, and it was a little bit more, well, but we need 47 people to now approve this thing, and we need all these checks and balances to approve this thing before we can even procure it. I had a customer this last year, actually. They needed a very simple internet-based communication thing. We built it for them. It was a prototype, so we got on contract. It took us 9 months to get on contract. It was like a 50K prototype, very small in government land contract, right? It took 9 months to get on contract. We got it on contract, built it, deployed it, and said, okay, it's built. We built it in like 40 days or something even less than that, I think, 30 days. It's built, ready to go. Have you guys test it? Well, the government person who got it on contract rotated out. New guy came in and said, why do we need this? Canceled the contract.
I've never seen that.
Right? Like, and it was like 9 months procurement process, a 30-day build and delivery, canceled contract where the system was built, functional, ready to go, and a new person came in and just kind of cut it. And then what was really interesting was the decision was to I won't go into it, I guess. It was to use a different commercial technology that has many known problems. And it was kind of like, really? You wanted this whole build effort to have a secure kind of internet-based system, and now you're going to go to this thing which is published flaws for free. You're going to use this free thing that has published flaws, published problems. You sure? And that was the decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen. I could tell stories. I guess you could say.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, let's switch gears a little to your business. So are you a loan contractor, or do you have like a business set up, an LLC or something to that effect?
No, I'm. I guess you'd say I'm a loan contractor. I work for a company called Kairos,
Okay.
Kairos. It's a relatively small company. They do most of their work in support of NOC Wolf, which is Naval Air Warfare Center Webster Outlying Field. It seems
Okay.
like a really forced acronym, but
Yeah.
it works. Um, they they are looking to, like a lot of people are, to run faster in this space. And there's a very long story about how this came to be, but uh, the person who was the division chief that I worked for when I was with OSD CDAO. He had left government to work for them, working two sides of the business because they also do additive manufacturing.
Okay.
He and his team have a unique intellectual property, shall we say, with additive manufacturing that is starting to get some traction.
Hmm.
So that's like a passion project for him. But he has proven experience and strength and relationships, which are everything in the data analytics space. He's one of the founders of Advana. So
Cool.
when there's certain people who always get the phone picked up for them, and I'm talking about Nick Lanham, and he's one of those guys.
Mm.
So Nick and I worked together for quite some time until he left government. And at some point, things were getting weird towards the end of my career. And one of the things you get to do or at least I understand, I think you still can do it, but I heard that they were pumping the brakes a little bit. But there's a program called SkillBridge,
Yep.
because most people that do military career find that the transition into the civilian space is challenging.
Yep.
And it's an opportunity for us to try to, dip your toes in the water and figure out what it's like on the other side. And I was at the time functioning as a technical monitor for SunNet, which is a secure unclassified network. It's a means by which non-CAC holder, people who are not in the DoD network sometimes have a legitimate need to get into the DoD network so that they can access some sandboxed set of data, shall we say.
Right.
SunNet provides that mechanism. One example is Congress actually can't see budget data that's in the DoD space, which is really
Yep.
strange because they provide the money. But
Yeah.
SunNet has a mechanism by which congressional staffers can get in and take a look at what they need to look at. Now, while I was doing that, I found out that OSD CDAO had dumped a ton of money over in the bank for George Mason University to conduct a hackathon using the SunNet platform. And when I found out about that, I'm like, I happen to know something about hackathons. So I found out who had the money, and I reached out to him, and he's like, wow, this money's been sitting here for 18 months and nobody said anything. And I'm like, well, let me have a conversation with you. And I explained to him what we did with the Bravo series. And the guy got crazy excited about stuff. And we took our first step. And then things got weird because OSD CDAO realized the money was there and they scooped it.
Oh,
So now
okay.
we're just like, oh, what is going on? So so now you go on a really quick apology tour because you just started all these things with all these people. And
Right.
fortunately, it was just a first step, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't too long in development. But within days of that happening, Nick calls me and he's like, hey, man, I need you to join this association. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, National Defense Industrial Association. I need you to sign up and I need you to request membership into this new division, which is data analytics and enterprise platforms. And as it turns out, Nick was about to be elected the chairman of that group, which he was orchestrating being stood up. And the chairman of NDIA itself is former Deputy SecDef Norquist. And Nick had dialogues with him about hackathons, and he wanted to bring me on as a sub chair, for a hackathon committee. And we ended up briefing Honorable Norquist about, what we did and what we're trying to do. And Honorable Norquist said, this is a great idea. Let's tie it to our emerging tech conference in August, which we just executed. It's
Oh,
a
cool.
fantastic event. Now, it was like the stars aligning because we just had this failure at George Mason University.
Right.
And I was just like, holy crap, Nick, you've got to come here. Because one of the things that happened when we started on the George Mason OSD-CAO journey was George Mason was building out this Fuse facility, which is a public-private partnership research facility. And at this point, it was a skeleton. They were just building it out. And it was targeted to be open for business in August, right? Which is perfectly timed with our event.
Right.
So I brought Nick over. We got a tour. We saw the foot. I mean, it was just one of those things where it's like everybody got super excited because the way that we executed with the NDIA event is we established a public-private partnership, and we used the CRADA mechanism. It's a cooperative research and development agreement or something.
Yep, I'm familiar. Yep.
Yeah, it's those things are gaining popularity because they are fantastic mechanisms where if they're executed properly, everybody wins because you have private sector entities that don't normally have these relationships with government and or access to government data, right? You create situations where they can play in that space so they can find opportunities to deliver things that benefit the government, which from a business perspective will at some point benefit them. And there's so many layers to that onion, but the Air Force had an existing CRADA that we were able to take advantage of to execute this event. And we are pursuing many others. We just established one with the Marines, and that's tied to a company called Maximus. Maximus did essentially the framework, if you will, for this NDIA hackathon. There is a fantastic portal that they created. The VP of Maximus that led this from their side, Charles Ott, he was actually a participant in our Indo-PACOM hackathon, recognized the value of these things. We all stayed in touch. When we started up this NDIA thing, it was a no-brainer for him to jump on and participate. And he came at it from, I believe in this. It's a great idea. Let's make it better. And that's what his portal is. You can actually run it yourself if you want to. It's available in the Amazon Marketplace now.
Oh, wow.
So anybody can use this and tailor it for their own purposes. But and this is the magic that happens. People recognize the value of these events, and it's, you know, I tell you things like the sand trap situation where you start talking about the return on investment in terms of actual money, and that is an important piece to it. But the other piece to it is talent discovery, right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's not lost on government because it's actually mentioned even all the way up to the president's AI action plan talks about that as an important component. I know that OSD-CAO, as they develop their hackathon program, they're focusing on talent as a cornerstone of whatever they end up establishing. But it's hard to put a value on that because it's such a subjective thing. But one of the things that I noticed with the Bravo series, which was almost entirely DoD, was that the DoD, and I'll say this because I'm former Army, the Army in particular is really bad about taking people with certain skill sets and making them do jobs that have nothing to do with those skills.
Yeah.
And case in point, Army Lieutenant Colonel assigned to United States Strategic Command out there in Nebraska, which is a fantastic place to live. Most people completely overlook it, but Omaha is just a wonderful area, especially for families.
Nice.
But the middle year that I was at Stratcom, I was assigned to be the chairman of the U.S. Stratcom birthday ball. That is a full-time job for you. And you're a party planner.
Wow.
And it's an unbelievable amount of work because of government bureaucracy. But that's the kind of stuff that happens to a lot of people. They get pulled out to be schedulers, they get pulled out to be assistants,
Right.
and those technical skills that, I mean, the Army sent me to school for a year to be a network systems engineer.
Right.
They didn't want me to be a party planner. You know,
Right.
that's a lot of time and money that they spent for me to have technical skills. But you do what you're told, right?
Yeah.
So these hackathons create a week-long space where people that have that skill can exercise that muscle and be discovered, where they
Yeah.
get exposure to senior leaders, people meet people, stay connected. Sometimes they get lassoed where, senior leaders like, I need Susie. She's
Right.
coming on my team. And
Right.
and things get orchestrated. In the most recent event with NDIA, we had George Mason students participating. We had private sector. We had, and I know that some small companies were looked at by venture capital firms, and there
Oh,
are
wow.
conversations going on about things magicking up.
Yeah.
And I know that some George Mason students had some very productive conversations about what they're going to be doing next.
Yeah. That's super cool.
That is, yes, that's the beauty of it. It's hard to sell that,
Yep.
but the senior leaders are starting to bite on it.
Yeah.
So that's the important piece.
Yeah, that's kind of how the world works, right? Like you want to be in front of people to show your value, and once you earn that trust, you earn a right on the team. You earn your spot almost.
Exactly.
Well, that's super cool. Okay, I think that is probably a good wrapping point.